After I heard about her story from a relative of hers, Lucy McBath first joined us here on The Last Word 8 years ago on December 13th, 2012. 3 weeks after her son, Jordan Davis, was shot and killed at a gas station in Florida because he was in a car that was playing loud music. Lucy McBath followed the path that Joe Biden has described of turning personal loss into purpose.
I wanted to know, why was no one standing up for our children? Why was no one standing up to keep us safe? So I stood up and I ran for office myself.
2 years ago, Lucy McBath was one of the Democratic congressional candidates who flipped a Republican district when she beat Georgia's Republican Congresswoman Karen Handel. Lucy McBath was reelected this year, once again beating Karen Handel, this time by 9 points. The Honorable Lucy McBath holds the congressional seat now that was once held by Newt Gingrich. Joining us now is Congresswoman Lucy McBath. She is the author of the book, Standing Our Ground, A Mother's Story. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And joining us, I should say, once again tonight. You've been with us so many times in the past. This is a year where people have suffered so much. We have over 250,000 dead from COVID-19, lost loved ones. That means millions of people. You just do the math on 250,000 people, millions and millions of people. This Thanksgiving will be spending the first Thanksgiving without that loved one who was lost. What does your loss and your experience with it tell you about how to get through times like this?
Well, thank you, Lawrence, for that question. And I do want to say briefly that you were the first person to give me a national voice on television. So thank you so much for allowing me just to tell my story. And that's basically what I have continued to do ever since, is just tell my story, because my story does have the ability to be able to resonate with families all around the country, in particular parents who just don't want to wake up one day and find that their loved ones, their children are not coming back home. And so that's what I've just continued to do, talk about my story with Jordan. Also having been a 2-time breast cancer survivor, taking care of aged parents, working with Social Security and Medicare, and just all those life experiences that I've had. I've just continued to tell my story so that the people that I wanted to represent would understand and know that I had credible experiences, that I could really speak for them and fight for them in Washington.
I was just saying that you've lived through this suffering and yet turned it into this purpose and run now and run for reelection, won reelection. What did the district learn about their congresswoman in the last 2 years that allowed you to win that reelection?
Well, I think what my constituents learned about me is that I really do care. And I didn't pave my way in a road to coming to Washington, but I have lived experiences that probably give me really good credibility to be able to fight and champion for them in Washington. And we have really worked very hard to represent every demographic in our district, because whether they voted for me or not, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, we all have the same needs, cares, and wants. And specifically with COVID-19, every single one of us needs to make sure that we have a better future in store for our families and our communities. So what I think they know is that I do genuinely really care about what happens to them, because what happens to them happens, and it's representative of what happens to America.
The Honorable Lucy McBath, thank you very much for joining us once again tonight. We always appreciate it.